Alright, we're going to be building the bullet feeder today. So for 3D printed parts, you have your two caliber specific collator plates. This one's for 9mm, the green one's for 45. You have your base back here. This is the 25-hour print right here, this big base right here. And that'll accommodate all the stuff you got to put on to make this thing work. This right here, the black piece, is a slider, and this one's for nose down orientation, so this will do nose down feeding. There's also two other sliders, one there and one for the bigger bullets here. Those will do nose up orientation. So we got those. This adapter that goes onto the output chute on the bottom of the feeder tube. This takes a 1/2 inch, I think that's called a brake line protector spring. And I got 25 foot of that spring, so I can do a couple of these. Big thanks to Mig for finding that spring on Amazon. Otherwise you got to pay 13 bucks for 2 foot from Double Alpha. So good call on that. This is the stand mount, and this accompanies that stand mount. And what you do here is you drop a M5 nut into here. This is for a 3/4 inch square tube. Drill a hole in the 3/4 inch square tube, slide this over that, run your bolt through and catch that nut. And that way you can take and have one of these operations right here. I know the lighting sucks right here, but it is what it is. But that way you can loosen up this nut right here, and you can tilt this back and forth to get the right angle on it. There's several different options for mounting these. That's just the one that I chose because I made this little telescoping mount. So that's a 3/4 inch tube inside a 1 inch tube. I got a nut welded to this with a bolt so I can lock that telescoping tube in place. It's just welded onto a base down at the bottom. What else for 3D printed parts? Here's the flipper mechanism. This is a different one than the one I'm currently using. I'm giving this one a shot. This was drawn by Backyard Inventor, and it's an external spring as opposed to an internal captured spring. So we're going to give that one a shot. And that is terrible lighting. This piece right here. So what that does is that there's a bullet in there cockeyed, it'll smack it out of place. That way it won't skip past the point where it needs to turn and then fall in and then have a bullet fall in, you know, nose down. Nobody wants that when they're running the press with the bullet feeder. So there's that. If you're doing nose down, Harry also drew these plates up. Backyard Inventor also drew these plates up to go inside the feeder underneath the collator plate. Now what this does is we'll take the nose of the bullet and keep it towards the outside of the bowl to where it needs to go to hit that critical point right there. If the bullet is nose down, it's going to roll right into that hole. If the bullet is nose up, the base is going to ride along this edge right here until it drops down into this second area, and then be pushed over here and flipped over so it is nose down. And this is a pretty critical piece, I think, because that's where your bullets fall out when they're base down. And you got to cover that up somehow when you're doing nose down feeding, and that takes care of that, as well as keeps the nose of the bullet around this outer edge. I think, and then we got your drop tube. So this is what houses your micro switch that tells the bullet feeder to turn off once you have so many bullets into the switch. And this is what the other end of the spring goes into on top of your bullet feeder die. or on top of your, you know, I could probably draw something up to put this on top of the tube for the Lee APP, so you can do nose up for, or I'm sorry, nose down for cast bullets and stuff. And then I just got a couple boxes I printed up to house your switches and your motor speed controller and all that. So that's what these are, just printed off of Thingiverse. That's it for 3D printed parts. So these power switches are dirt cheap. I got a bag of 20 of them, and it was like $6. So you need a power switch, and you need a limit switch, also very cheap. And when the bullets hit against that switch, it cuts the power to the motor, and when it's empty, it resumes power to the motor. This speed controller right here, it's just a 12 volt, cheap Amazon speed controller. I think these are $10. This motor right here, this is the JGY 370 knockoff on Amazon. I didn't get an actual JGY 370, and I wish I would have, because this motor did not have a threaded shaft. Oh, where'd the other one go I just had? So yeah, this is the JSX 330-370. This motor works. I don't recommend picking it up though, because as you can see, I had to tack weld a roll pin onto the shaft, and that roll pin goes right here inside that collator plate. Without that, I was having to use these 3D printed wing shaft adapters, and these don't hold up. I've already broken one, so I just said I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to use this and not have to worry about it again. So get the threaded, if you want to build one of these, get this motor with the threaded shaft in there. And what I would do is take, like, I think these are an M4 thread. When the shafts are drilled and tapped, then take an M4 screw. So I would just tack a roll pin on top of that M4 screw. That way you can just thread the whole thing in there and be done with it, as opposed to having to weld on a 12 volt motor. I had to cover this all up with non-conductive, you know, rags and gloves and stuff, and have this. I had to put the ground on the very bottom of the shaft here, so when I welded, the electricity went to out, you know, exited the shaft instead of going over here to the solenoid, and that would have burned it up. So yeah, get the threaded one. Long story short. All right, then you're going to need some wire, soldering iron, wiring connectors, stuff like that. So let's get building this thing. Motor negative. Oops, I did that wrong. You want it on NC negative there. That way it'll run power until the switch is activated. Okay, this will go to, from the switch, here this third post, back to the speed controller, to the motor negative, is what this one's going to go to, on the speed controller. So your bottom of your speed controller here, you got motor negative, motor positive, power negative, power positive. You cannot switch the power positive and negative around. Those two must be always correct. The motor negative and motor positive, you can flip-flop those to change the direction of the motor. I forgot one critical thing. Power switch. All right, so, oh, that's tight. Let's see here, I don't think it really matters which one this goes on. Go from that to the motor negative, correct? All right, there's that. So basically, turn the motor up. Hit the switch, kills the power. Just like that. Okay, here's a flipper that, if you can see it maybe, smacks the bullets out of there if they're not oriented correctly. So it'll be noisy as hell when it's moving though. Slightly annoying. I don't know if there's anything I can make that spring longer, but it works. So let her eat, right? All right, let's grab some bullets and see what happens, see if they all come out. So this piece here is supposed to bolt on to this, just like that, and keep the bullets that are nose up from tipping forward and skipping out of there and falling, you know, how they shouldn't. So let me get that attached down there. Alright, got my little doodad there. Hopefully it's not too close to that bullet feeder plate. Oh geez, here we go. Alright, now let's see what happens. With their nose up, they go right around that ramp and they get flipped over. Yep, I'm missing my jar here. All right. How many were nose up? Let's try that again. We'll try it out. Come on, where's your ass? What the hell? Oh, it's that. It's sliding down. I need to move that out of here. Yeah, that edge was hanging up on that bullet feeder plate, so let's try it again once. My speed controller is probably all messed up. I don't know why they're scooting up that ramp like that. Alright. This thing, I'm going to get a longer bolt or something and figure something out with that because that keeps wanting to scoot forward and get hung up. But I think those were all nose down. For some reason they're scooting up the ramp here. That could just be me trying to hold this at the same angle and not having it, you know, perfect the whole time because I'm probably not holding it the same the entire. I don't know. But you can adjust your angle and until that goes away, or you know, give it more, give it less, whatever you need to do. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that's working. I have to go back and watch the video again, but I think they were all nose down. All right. So now all that's left to do is, well, I guess we can try some 9mm. Give me a second, we can switch that over. Alright, so I noticed switching between the two calibers that the hole is off, so this whole slider assembly has to be scooted out some. Give that a shot here. Where's my screwdriver? Bench is a mess. There it is. See what that looks like once. A little bit more. Probably do a little bit more yet. And that means that we're going to have to move that again and do the whole 9 yards there too. Yeah, let's just try a handful, see what happens. Oh, try some round nose ones. See how it goes. I said I didn't adjust this again, so if they fall down, you know, base down, it is what it is. Oh, that is working beautifully. Flipping the ones that are nose up over to nose down. One more, hang on. That was just 100% nose down after just swapping the plate and scooting that out a little bit. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, you can just adjust that in a little bit further for, I guess a little bit more, well, Backyard Inventor says it's a little bit more insurance to make sure that your bullets, if they're nose up, they don't tip and then fall down in the wrong orientation. But that worked beautifully right there with 9mm. Awesome. I'm super excited about that. So there is the nose down variation of this bullet feeder. I'll show you the nose up real quick. Alright, here's the nose up orientation. This is the one that's hooked up to my Dillon, so let's check this one out again. It's the same setup, only the spring connector will go over here as opposed to on that, as opposed to on that slider plate like in the nose down orientation. So turn that on once and I'll throw some light on it for you. Oop, probably need to plug the power supply in, hang on. Alright, this one's using that plastic drive shaft too, so who knows how that's going to go. Alright, all nose up. Let's see if we can load a few even though I don't have the correct expander for my powder measure. Let's give it a shot once. Alright, let's just do like 10 rounds or so. What's happening without the correct powder expander is that once the bullet gets fed onto the case, it'll come around here and it'll be cockeyed. Like the flare, the expansion won't be ideal for a bullet to stay where it needs to stay while it makes that camming motion. So I'll show you what that looks like here. I'm trying to find a place to put my hand out of the way. Alright, first bullet. See how it's kicked sideways. I have to sit here and kind of finagle with it. There we go. Spit some more bullets out. That bullet looks okay. As does that one. As does that one. Oh, these all wonky. All right. So, that's the whole operation right there. Hopefully my hand wasn't in the way too much so you could see what was going on. But yeah, that's quite a bit faster. I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say, is it necessary? No. Am I lazy? Kinda. So oh, we gotta hang up. Something jammed up. Bullets got hung up on the spring up top. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. So as you can see, they're all nose up in this setup. I'll keep messing with the nose down and figure out what I got to do to hook that up to a Lee APP press and the other feeder that I just built for you here. That one's going to Julio for helping me out and doing a bunch of videos for me and answering a lot of my questions I had. So he's getting that one I just built, and you deserve it, man. You're an awesome dude, and no reason you shouldn't have it. I think that's all I got for today. When I get those other powder measure or powder expanders, I'll see if that makes a difference on how the bullets are setting on top of the case. I mean, it should help theoretically, but these are still coming out as they should. You know, these are the RCBS 200 grain semi-wad cutters on top of 5.2 grains or 1 grains of bullseye. So, all right. Well, I'll keep you posted on these as I get more going and get more figured out on them. So, any questions, let me know.